You ever wake up one morning and realize your whole life was built on a lie? That was me. Standing in 4-inch heels, tailored navy suit clinging to me like armor, coffee pot in hand, pouring drinks for a room full of men who'd forgotten who the hell I was. They laughed. Especially him, Michael. My husband. My business partner. The man I once believed saw me. She's just a pretty face, he said with that smug laugh that always made investors feel like they were in on something. Like I was some decorative fixture in the office I helped build from the ground up. The air went still. My hands didn't shake as I poured hot coffee into David Harris's cup. A multi-million-dollar client and the only one in the room who didn't laugh. He just looked at me. And in that split second I knew he saw it too. The fire. The insult. The betrayal. I raised my glass. Ex-wife actually, I said, voice smooth like glass on steel. Divorce finalized this morning. The silence was nuclear. I kept the house, the company, and your parking spot, I added. Michael choked. I smiled. Next time, read my fine print. But let me take you back because my story doesn't start at the revenge. It starts at the forgetting. At the erasure. At the slow, invisible death of a woman who once ran the whole damn show. 6 years ago, I met Michael Thorne at a marketing conference in San Diego. I was giving a talk on customer retention strategies, my specialty, my pride. He approached me after, all warm eyes and perfect teeth. Lena Quinn, he said, shaking my hand. You just solved a problem I've been chasing for a year. He said we should collaborate. I was skeptical at first, but I'd built everything alone for too long. We started a firm together, Thorne and Quinn, in a small rented loft above a yoga studio in Elmhurst. We had no clients and no budget, but we had fire. Chemistry. Late nights of strategy, espresso, and stealing kisses between pitch decks. We were electric. Within 2 years, we were regional leaders. When he proposed, it felt less like a surprise and more like inevitability. To Lena, he toasted at our wedding on the cliffs near Lake Marlowe. My partner in every sense of the word. I believed him. God help me, I did. But after the wedding, things shifted. First, it was scheduling. The client can only meet during your dentist appointment, he'd say. Don't worry, I took notes. Then shorter notes. Then no notes at all. When I landed the Aurora Foods account, my pitch, my contact, my close, he made a speech at the office party and never mentioned my name once. I pulled him aside after. Why did you say it was your strategy? You weren't even in the room. Come on, Lena. He kissed my cheek. We're married. Does it matter whose name's on the contract? I should have seen it then. Instead, I swallowed it. Like all the other small humiliations. Like when he moved my desk out of our shared office, saying it was better optics for clients. Like when my name vanished from our website's about page. From co-founder to internal operations. I told myself it was just a phase. That maybe I was overreacting. Until the night his father came to dinner. His name was Wallace Thorne. Big man. Old money. The kind of man who didn't ask questions, he made statements. As we passed the wine, he told a story about a business deal gone south. Margaret had opinions, he chuckled, gesturing to his wife. But I reminded her, men handle the business. Women handle the home. Michael raised his glass. Dad ran a tight ship. Learn from the best. I saw it then, the baton pass. A legacy of silence. Of women being made small so their men could stand tall. I looked at Margaret. She topped off Wallace's wine without meeting my eyes. I felt something rupture inside me. I wasn't going to be her. The erasure became surgical. Client intros went from meet my wife and business partner Lena to just Lena runs admin. Admin? I had a master's in business analytics. I trained half our staff. I'd written our growth strategy, redesigned our brand from scratch, and built our largest campaign from the ground up. But none of that mattered once he decided to rewrite the story with him as the sole protagonist. And I let him. For too long. Until David Harris. That meeting was supposed to be mine. I spent 2 weeks preparing a pitch for Harris Developments, market research, demographic strategies, full rebranding mock-ups. A deal that could take us national. 10 minutes into my presentation, Michael cut me off. What Lena's trying to say is that we'll target women without compromising our core message for serious investors. David frowned. Michael smiled like a man already signing the deal. Lena, coffee, please? Before we dive into the numbers. I froze. He just erased me mid-sentence. But I smiled. I got the coffee. And when he leaned back in his chair and said, she's just a pretty face but we keep her busy, I didn't spill a drop. Because in that moment, I wasn't Lena Quinn, forgotten wife, fading co-founder. I was something else entirely. I was awake. That night I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, counting the cracks in our marriage, realizing I had loved a man who was slowly killing me with courtesy. And I decided, if he wanted to erase me, I'd become the woman he couldn't forget. If he wanted to play war in a boardroom, then I would become the battlefield. After the Harris meeting, something inside me cracked. Not shattered. Cracked, like a hairline fracture in glass right before it explodes under pressure. Michael left for a 3-day executive retreat in Chicago the following week. He kissed my cheek, told me to keep the lights on, and disappeared. Perfect. I waited 2 hours after he left, then walked straight into his office with the spare key I wasn't supposed to have anymore. I'd never gone through his drawers before, but this time I wasn't just curious. I was hunting, and I found everything. Sloppy records, hidden transactions, consulting fees to shell companies I'd never heard of, payments labeled as office upgrades that didn't match a single thing in our building. $23,000? For what? A gold-plated Keurig? That was when I saw the real kicker. 3 monthly payments to Vantage Strategies, a consulting firm that didn't show up on any of our project logs. I Googled it. Nothing. I tried again. This time I added Michael Thorne to the search. Boom. Vantage Strategies was a holding shell for Westbridge Collective, a new marketing firm quietly registered in Illinois. Owner Michael Thorne. CEO Thomas Rudd, his old college buddy. Headquarters Chicago. Mission high-end corporate rebranding with access to established legacy clients. They were building a duplicate of my company. Without me. That night I couldn't eat. Couldn't think. Every detail swirled in my head like poison. The hidden bank transfers. The fake consulting firm. The strategic retreats to Chicago that were really blueprint sessions for his new kingdom. But the worst part? He didn't even think I'd notice. He'd counted on me being too loyal. Too distracted. Too diminished. I stood in the middle of our walk-in closet, surrounded by his pressed suits, his cufflinks, his neatly arranged colognes, and I felt nothing. No rage. No heartbreak. Just detachment. Like I was floating outside my own body. I needed to land. The next morning I drove an hour outside the city to meet the one person I trusted with both a scalpel and a sword, Talia Morgan. We met freshman year in law school. She went corporate. I went creative. But she always told me, Lena, if you ever need to burn it all down, call me. I called. We sat across from each other at a diner off Route 83. She wore red-framed glasses, a sharp blazer, and the kind of no-bullshit energy that made men sit straighter when she entered a room. You're telling me, she said slowly, that he's planning to open a competing firm using your joint assets, company contacts, and staff, and has already started laundering money into the new venture? I nodded. Talia sipped her black coffee and leaned back. Then Lena, you don't need a divorce lawyer. You need war counsel. Over the next few weeks I changed everything. I started eating lunch in my car. Not because I was avoiding people but because I was studying. Talia gave me a crash course in shareholder rights, financial misconduct, and corporate sabotage. Every day I devoured it: business law, bylaws, governance codes. I learned to speak the language of the boardroom fluently. Michael thought I was sulking, reeling. I was preparing. And then Jessica walked into my life. Jessica Tran, 27, fresh out of grad school, hired by Michael with big promises about creative freedom. She found me in the parking lot one day after work, holding 2 coffees. Mind if I sit with you? She slid into the passenger seat, pulled out her lunch, and without a beat said, I know what you're doing. And I want you to know you're not alone. I blinked. Excuse me. Jessica looked around, then leaned in. Michael told me I'd be leading campaigns by Q2. Instead, he hands my concepts to other departments and takes credit. I found my work in a presentation he gave to a client last week. Word for word. My heart clenched. She wasn't the first. She wasn't the only. Jessica continued. I started documenting everything. So did Chloe in analytics. And Amir in client services. We don't know what your plan is, but we're in whatever it is. That night, I sat in our home office and opened the original formation documents for Thorne and Quinn. In section 11.3, I found the clause I'd inserted years ago when we were just a tiny LLC with 2 laptops and a dream. Any transfer or redistribution of more than 15% ownership must be agreed upon in writing by both founding partners. There it was. Michael's fatal flaw. He never changed the documents. He didn't think I'd remember. But I remembered everything. The next morning, Michael kissed me on the cheek and said, "You've been quiet lately." "Just focused," I replied. "Don't burn yourself out," he said. "Let me handle the big stuff." He left for the office. I turned to the mirror, looked into my own eyes and whispered, "No, I'll handle you." From that day forward, the transformation accelerated. I smiled more. I asked Michael about his day. I even brought him coffee in the mornings just the way he liked it. He thought I was healing. He had no idea I was documenting. Jessica slipped me internal emails. Chloe flagged invoices with suspicious tags. Amir traced client contacts being funneled into test databases. By week 3, we had enough for a forensic audit. By week 4, I had every board member's email address. By week 5, I had Michael's entire operation mapped out like a war table. One evening, as we made dinner side by side, Michael said, "I'm thinking of asking Tom to come on full-time. He's proven himself." I nodded, chopping onions. "Sounds smart. Besides," he added, "you've been such a rock lately. Always reliable." He kissed my temple. Good girl, he didn't say, but I heard it anyway. He had no idea I was the one sharpening the blade. I stared at it for a long time, my hands cold around the phone. He'd seen everything in that meeting. The dismissal. The way Michael used me like set dressing. He wasn't just watching. He was testing. We met at a quiet cafe across from the downtown library. I wore gray slacks and a high-collared blouse. Polished, neutral, forgettable. He arrived alone, no entourage, no laptop. Just a man who built a real estate empire on knowing exactly when to speak and when to listen. "I've done some reading," he said, sliding a folder across the table. "Old industry articles. Early awards. You weren't just part of Thorne and Quinn. You were the engine." Inside the folder were printed screenshots. Articles quoting my strategies, client testimonials praising my leadership, not Michael's. Even a photo of the two of us standing outside our first office. Me holding the lease papers. I nodded slowly. I was. "So what happened?" I looked out the window. Paused. "Partnerships evolve," I said carefully. "Sometimes in unexpected ways." David leaned in, voice low. "Do you want out?" It wasn't just curiosity. It was opportunity. I could feel it humming under his words. "I'm restructuring," I replied deliberately. "Still researching my options." He nodded, understanding. "When you're ready, call me." I watched him walk away. Calm. Certain. And just like that, I had leverage I never expected. That night, Michael was unusually affectionate. He made dinner, opened wine, even queued up my favorite series. "You've been amazing lately," he said between bites. "Grounded. Supportive." I almost choked on my risotto. "And things are moving fast," he added. "The Harris deal? Almost sealed." "Oh, yeah. Board presentation next week. I'll handle the pitch. You know how you hate public speaking." I smiled sweetly. "You're right. You should take the spotlight." He relaxed. He thought I was back in my place. What he didn't know was that the next morning, I filed the first legal motion. Not divorce. Not yet. This was a notice of preliminary ownership freeze. Talia helped me prepare it. It meant any major business decision involving asset transfers or equity changes would be subject to review until further investigation. It was like slipping a lock onto the vault before the thief reached in. He wouldn't know until it was too late. That week, Jessica handed me a printed email chain. Subject: Westbridge Leadership Equity. From Michael Thorne. To Tom Rudd. "I'll keep her happy until we've secured Harris. After that, we go quiet. Transfer final clients by Q3, liquidate overlap, and file for full separation." She signs what I put in front of her. I read it 3 times. Then a 4th. Transfer. Liquidate. Separate. Like I was inventory. Jessica looked nervous. "Still think we have time?" "I don't just think," I whispered. "I know." I decided to test him. At breakfast, I asked, "You ever think about starting over? Like totally fresh?" Michael blinked. "What do you mean?" "Maybe we need something new. A rebrand. Just us." He smiled. "Funny you say that. I've actually been exploring something in that vein." "Of course you have. But I didn't want to overwhelm you," he added. "You've been handling operations so well. I figured I'd take lead on strategy." I played dumb. That's fair. He kissed my forehead. You're amazing. Don't worry about the big stuff. I smiled into my coffee, already drafting my statement for the board meeting in my head. 3 days before the meeting, Karen, our company accountant, stopped by my desk. Hey, did Michael not go over the share adjustment plan with you? I blinked. What share adjustment? Her eyes widened. Oh, I thought you were on the same page. Remind me. She lowered her voice. The restructuring, Michael taking 60%, Tom 25%, the rest to management. Your name wasn't on the distribution chart, so I assumed you'd signed off on a separate deal. I stared at her. I'll circle back with him, I said smoothly. Karen walked away. I sat frozen. He wasn't just trying to cut me out. He was about to erase me entirely. That night, I didn't sleep. I watched him instead, curled up in bed beside me, snoring softly, the blue light of his phone still glowing from his nightstand. He'd gotten comfortable. He'd mistaken my silence for surrender. That was his mistake. The next morning, I initiated phase 2. I moved half our joint savings into a private account. Legal. Documented. Sarah, my financial advisor, approved everything. Jessica helped me back up internal records. Karen flagged every suspicious transaction she'd ever seen. Amir traced which clients had been contacted by Westbridge, posing as a new firm. And me? I rehearsed my presentation like it was my last breath. Because it would be. The last breath of Lena Quinn, the quiet wife. The next version? She wasn't going to whisper. The day before the board meeting, Michael asked me to iron his blue shirt. His power shirt. I did. Pressed the collar perfectly. Buttoned it. Folded it neatly on the edge of our bed. He kissed me goodbye. I'll make you proud tomorrow, he said. I watched him go. He thought tomorrow was his coronation. He had no idea it would be his execution. The morning of the board meeting, I woke before the sun. No alarm. No hesitation. I slipped into my suit, charcoal gray with sharp lapels, the kind that made men think twice before interrupting. I pinned my hair back, slid on my grandmother's pearl earrings, and looked in the mirror. There she was. The woman Michael had been trying to bury under years of belittling smiles and patronizing pats on the back. Not gone. Just hidden. Not weak. Just patient. I arrived at the office early and set up the boardroom myself. Folders at every seat. Water glasses perfectly aligned. Coffee hot and waiting. I moved like a ghost through the building, invisible to most, but fully present for what was coming. At 9:14 a.m., Michael stepped off the elevator. Fresh haircut. That stupid blue shirt. The one I'd ironed for him. He barely glanced at me as he passed. Then the courier approached him at the reception desk. Michael Thorne. He nodded. Package for you, signature required. I watched from the break room doorway as he opened the envelope. His eyebrows furrowed. His face paled. He scanned the pages. Then looked up. Our eyes met. He stormed toward me, the packet of papers clenched in his hand like a weapon. What the hell is this? He hissed. Exactly what it looks like, I said, stirring my coffee. Divorce? Ownership freeze? Are you insane? No. Just informed. He glanced around. Eyes narrowed. You think you can scare me with paperwork? I think I said calmly you should call Tom. He froze. He'll be getting his own copy about the Westbridge fraud. Forming a competing business using shared resources? That's a violation of at least 3 clauses in your operating agreement. His nostrils flared. You won't get away with this. You mean the way you thought you'd get away with this? I sipped my coffee. Funny how that works. He locked himself in his office for the next 2 hours. Phone calls. Raised voices. I could hear him pacing from the hallway. I didn't flinch. By noon, the boardroom was full. David Harris arrived with 2 executives in tow. The rest of the board members filtered in slowly, some curious, some nervous, all unaware of the landmine beneath the table. Michael entered last. Smile on. Suit crisp. Voice polished. But his left eye twitched. It always twitched when he was about to lose control. Gentlemen, he began, thank you for joining us for this exciting milestone. He launched into his presentation. The Chicago expansion. The new brand identity. A gleaming mock-up of the River North office. Projected revenue. Team structure. He never said my name. Not once. And finally, he said, I'd like to propose a restructuring of our equity model to better reflect senior leadership contributions. His assistant handed out folders. My name was not on a single page. Any questions? He asked. The room was silent. I have one, I said, standing slowly. Michael's face froze. Perhaps we should let the board review the documents first, Lena, he said, his voice strained. My question is about Section 12.4b, I said, walking to the head of the table. Of our original operating agreement. The board chairman adjusted his glasses. Which states that any redistribution of shares exceeding 15% requires written consent from all original signing partners, I said, placing my copy in front of him. Highlighted. The room shifted. Pages flipped. Brows furrowed. David Harris leaned forward. What exactly are we looking at here? Evidence, I said. Of unauthorized financial transfers, misuse of company funds, and a plan to siphon our most valuable clients to a firm Mr. Thorne secretly established under the name Westbridge Collective. I let that hang in the air. Michael slammed a folder shut. This is a personal vendetta. This is a corporate betrayal, I replied. And as of 8 a.m. this morning, I am Mr. Thorne's ex-wife. David Harris blinked. Finalized. Signed. Sealed. And legally notarized. Michael was pale now. I never signed anything authorizing these changes, I continued. Which makes this presentation null. The share transfers? Fraudulent. The client contacts being poached? Illegal. The documents backdated by your assistant? Documented. I dropped the final packet onto the table. Silence. One beat. Then two. Then. You lied to us, said Robert Wilson, the board chair. Michael opened his mouth. Nothing came out. I move for a temporary freeze on all structural changes, Robert said, looking at the others. Effective immediately. Seconded. Thirded. It was done. Michael tried to speak again. David Harris did. You assured me this firm was built on integrity. That all key players were aligned. His gaze shifted to me. Is Harris Development still welcome here, Miss Quinn? I met his eyes. Yes. But under new leadership. He nodded. Then I look forward to renegotiating fairly. He turned to leave. Then paused. Interesting, he said quietly. Coming from someone who just signed away everything to a woman he called just a pretty face. The room stilled. I lifted my glass. Ex-wife, actually. And I kept the house, the company, and your parking spot, Michael. He choked. I smiled. Next time, read my fine print. That night he was gone. Locked out. Security escorted. His key card deactivated before he reached the parking lot. The storm had passed. But I didn't feel peace. Not yet. Later, I stood alone in the office, barefoot in the boardroom, staring at the skyline through the glass. I'd won. But I hadn't healed. He'd stolen so much. Years. Confidence. Identity. Taking back power didn't restore what was lost. And that's when the real pain hit, not of defeat, but of remaking. Of building again. Alone. But this time I wasn't doing it to prove anything to anyone. Not to Michael. Not to the board. Not even to David Harris. I was building for me. For the woman who stood in the same room and poured coffee while her name was erased. That woman was gone. What remained was fire. After the boardroom battle, word spread fast. Michael Thorne, former golden boy, firm visionary, marketing genius, was out. Official statements use phrases like structural pivot and executive realignment, but everyone in the office knew the truth. I didn't just survive. I won. I moved into his office that afternoon. Same glass walls. Same view. But it felt like a different world. Jessica brought champagne. Amir brought muffins. Even Karen, quiet, serious Karen, left a sticky note on my desk that said, "We've been waiting for you." But beneath the victory, something else simmered. I wasn't done. Michael still had cards to play. Whispers of his new consulting firm floated around LinkedIn. He was pitching clients under the radar, trying to salvage pieces of what he thought he owned. He forgot one thing. I owned everything. Every client contact. Every proprietary strategy. Every pixel of the brand we built together. And I had the paper trail to prove it. 2 weeks later, I got the call. Michael Thorne is requesting a meeting. I almost laughed. But curiosity has always been my weakness. Schedule him, I said. 15 minutes. Nothing more. He showed up looking smaller. His tailored blazer hung looser now. There were faint shadows under his eyes. And that cocky smile? Gone. Replaced by something I almost didn't recognize, humility maybe? Or desperation dressed in nice shoes. Lena, he nodded, standing awkwardly. You look, well. I am. I gestured to the chair across from me. What do you want? He shifted, clearly uncomfortable. I'm launching a small practice. Just myself. Not competing directly. I swear. Still using my name on the resume? He hesitated. It's our name. No, I said sharply. It was mine before you rewrote history. Silence. I need a reference, he finally said. Not glowing. Just confirmation. Of title. Years. Role. The irony landed between us like a slap. He once said I was just a pretty face. Now he wanted me to validate his credentials. I leaned back, studying him. I'll have Jessica send over a basic letter. Nothing more. Nothing less. Relief softened his features. Thank you. He stood to leave. Michael, I said, stopping him. You remember the parking spot sign? He blinked. What? I had it framed. It hangs in my home office now. Above my bar cart. His jaw tensed. But he didn't speak. Just nodded and walked out. Weeks passed. I rebuilt. Not just the company myself. I promoted Jessica to creative director. Gave Chloe a raise. Rehired 2 women Michael had pushed out under performance concerns. The office transformed. The energy shifted. No more whispering. No more invisible labor. No more looking to a man for approval we already earned. Clients noticed. David Harris expanded his contract and referred 3 new accounts. One of them asked to work exclusively with Lena. For the first time, I saw my name on the wire transfers. But the real healing? That took time. I started therapy. I boxed. Punched. Cried. Screamed into towels. I bought myself a silver pendant in the shape of a phoenix. I wore it under my blouse every day. A reminder. I didn't rise from the ashes. I burned the whole cage down. 6 months later, I moved out of the house. Downtown loft. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Clean lines. No beige. No memories. I left the wedding photos in a box in the garage. Donated the dishes he loved. Sold the couch he always napped on. Everything else? Mine now. Even the silence felt freer. Then came the final call. A woman named Erica. New CEO of a mid-size ad agency. I think you knew my predecessor, she said delicately. Michael Thorne. I almost laughed again. Briefly, I said. He applied for a creative strategist position. Impressive background. But we wanted to hear from you. Discreetly. I paused. Thought of all the ways I could answer. And then I said. Michael is very persuasive. He's also very good at making other people disappear. Silence. Would you recommend him? I'd recommend watching your contracts closely. Noted. She thanked me. Hung up. Just like that, his future dimmed. Now, I sit in my office, the one with my name on the door. Lena Quinn. CEO. No husband. No co-founder. Just me. The woman who poured the coffee. The woman who built the kingdom. And when they tried to crown someone else, she took the whole damn throne back. Some nights I think of him. Not with anger. With clarity. Michael wasn't just my villain. He was my mirror. He showed me how far I could fall and how much further I could rise. I don't hate him. I outgrew him. And honestly, that's the cruelest revenge of all.